I am not an expert, but I have some experience when I am working in this youth and social organizations since 2000. I visited almost all the districts of Nepal and almost all the states of India also. So far as South-South cooperation is concerned, so we have to engage the youth and students to bring the peace and resolve the conflict. Because students have very important role to make the social transformation. And leaderships, they are coming from the youth sides. If youths are engaged in the social activities, it's a long time, so we will get the leadership from the different fields, for the different fields. So we have to engage the youth in the economic activities, educational activities. So we have to think about the educational system also in this South-South Cooperation Forum. Sometime I am thinking the students who passed class 9 up to 9 and 10, even the selection examination, but the pass percentage of the 10th and 12th are very less. So the other students, whether they are suffering from mental retardation, whether they are suffering from schizophrenic disease, the 30% pass percentage is the only. My question is this: if any government has any agenda to engage these not passed out students, what are the activities they are engaging? Let me tell you, Northeast insurgency and Nepal Maoist insurgency. Almost the students who did not pass the class 10 examination, and they engage in the Maoist insurgency, and even in the Northeast. There are 49 type of insurgency organized in the Northeast India, all are their youths. So why we are not focusing for the youth activities? So in our education system, we have to develop national character and discipline among the students. Unless the participation of the youth, the peace cannot bring and conflict is not able to resolve. Therefore, we have to engage the youth in the constructive activities. Let me tell you LTT example. When the police and force capture these young people, they take cyanide. How they motivated these young people? And why we are not able to motivate these young people toward the nation cause? I have so many experience, and we applied in our organization, social organization. More than 100 students, 100 youths, we back from the Maoist activities to the social activities, towards social activities. Number of workers now we have. We able to motivate these young people, but government and think tank are not involved, are not interested. And sometimes I am thinking, whenever a 50 student gather and they start to demand, the government agency do not hear unless they vandalize. Then they come to the outside. Why they are not dialogue between these young people? What are your demand? Why you are shouting? So we have to change the mindset of the government system. This mindset. And so far development is concerned, we have to have the holistic approach. Holistic means not merciless, merciful development. Why I am saying merciless? Sometime we establish medical college. For example, I am saying, the conflict between the local people and the medical students are there. Why this happened? Very interesting example I am giving you. I think it was in 1970, after 1970, Film and Television Institute of India, it is Pune. So there was one course that is acting. the local people, they against, because the students who are coming for the acting study, so there are their activities in their area. So there was conflict between the local people and this institution. So they demand the government, and government has stopped that course for few years. So we have not to have the conflict between the local people, not contrast between. So contrast means in the name of culture, tradition, sometimes it is very different. The concept of the development of the local people and other companies. So there is no dialogue between this. So youth are always have that potential to raise the question. It is very good because youth have that potentiality. So we have to motivate these young people in a right direction to resolve this conflict. I am giving one example in our Bhagavad Gita. It is Dosro Adhyaya. Arjuna asked to the Lord Krishna, how this conflict come? And Krishna said, it is in Sanskrit, Dhyayato Visayam Pumsa Sangastesu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate. And Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Sammoha Smriti Vibhrama Smriti Bhramsat Buddhinasho Buddhinasat Pranashyati. What is the meaning of this? Why conflict occur? The Krishna is saying here, if you want to claim this is mine, and if somebody also claim this belongs to mine, so then conflict occurs. When conflict occurs, the person will become angry. And when person become angry, and there will fight. So this is the main thing. So we have to find out what are our traditional knowledge to cope this conflict and making the peace building. Therefore, we have to have that sufficient academic institution to bring the leadership and engage the youth toward the social and constructive activities. Youth, they don't have any work. I am always saying, for example, youths are staying there, 50 youths are there. They are playing carom board. And someone came there. Oh, what are you doing here? There is one issue. Now we have to have agitation. We have to have the ikigai to this person. You come, I will give you 1,000 rupees. The people will go, youth are going. Again, someone came there. What are you doing? The person is very good. I am giving you 2,000 rupees. You have to support this person. They are okay because they get money. So, I mean, unless we engage our youth, economic activities, social activities, government activities, then only able to bring this peace and we able to resolve the conflict. Therefore, through the South-South cooperation, a very important role to make the awareness, to engage the government agency, to make the social organization having dialogue, not to occur the conflict. One thing, we are trying to firefighting. Conflict occur and we reach there. We are trying to manage it. But why we are not trying not to occur conflict? And sometimes what I experience, some Western countries and even the UN agency also, they are creating a conflict in the name of women empowerment, in the name of religious freedom, in the name of caste and gender, unless they are doing empowerment. So we have to focus this area also. Why they are doing these things? I have so many examples. So far Northeast are concerned, so far Nepal insurgency are concerned, and so far other conflicts area are concerned. So many, this agency are playing there. So South-South cooperation and TDC have very important role now to engage the youth, to have dialogue with these young people And through our education system and our other social organization, we have to make the ever students to bring the national character and discipline among the youths and students. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the alerting us to the role of culture and economic factors for conflict, and also the youth, what potential the youth have to be destructive if they do not have the right kind of economic opportunities and social support, and then the role of civil society in addressing these problems. Thank you. With this, we turn to Professor Ruchita, and understand that you have a special expertise in Africa. I wonder if you could address, if you're aware of cases where India gets involved in South-South cooperation, triangular cooperation, to address the peace building and conflict management. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to take this opportunity to thank RIS, the organizers, for giving me an opportunity to speak. While I'm the second last speaker, I hope I'll keep you awake by my presentation. We are talking about South-South cooperation in the broad framework and the broad framework of collaboration amongst the countries of South. My previous speakers have already talked about the principles that are involved in the South-South cooperation agenda, but I would like to reiterate them because I will be referring to some of them in my presentation. So what are the principles that guide South-South cooperation? The first is respect for national sovereignty. Second, national ownership, equality, non-conditionality, non-interference in domestic affairs, and lastly, demand-driven engagement for mutual benefit. These are the main principles. Now, the emerging powers in the last decade or so have been trying to develop or a framework for South-South cooperation that would help in preventing conflict, in enhancing security and stability across the regions. So each country has evolved its own particular mechanism, and I will be talking briefly to some of the examples into how India has shaped the conflict prevention and promoted peace and stability in Africa. As was referred again earlier, that one of the that we are facing with a large number of conflicts. Unfortunately, it is the African continent which has been involved in some of these conflicts in the recent past. So studying what India has done in Africa becomes really important in gauging the role of South-South cooperation. So in terms of security and conflict prevention, one of the important fact which the southern countries have highlighted is that they have emphasized the linkage between security and development, that security and development are the two sides of the same coin. And this is something which is being increasingly recognized across the world, and Indian leadership has been emphasizing this time and again. And I'd like to refer here to one of the statements made by India during the discussions on the SDGs, and where our representative said that the task of development agenda must be to create conditions for rapid economic growth, eradication of poverty, want, hunger, and holistic and sustainable development. All these, India considers, would build peace, which is, and also lead to conflict prevention and sustainable development. So this is the kind of definition through which India is molding its engagement towards conflict prevention in various parts of the world, including that in Africa at the moment. I will give you three examples here. First, in terms of development and enhancing the peace. One of the important roles that India has played in Africa has been to build the national capacities of the countries right from the post-colonial days. A number of countries in Africa, India supported the development of their national armies. India has been training under the ITEC program a number of officers from these countries. India particularly recognizes that the African countries have focused on capacity building and human resource development. So as a result, Africa today is the largest recipient of the Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation Program. And what is important to note here is that almost 40% of the slots for training in the ITEC program go for training, for military training, for training of the armed forces of the African countries. So here, India, what is India trying to do? It is trying to develop a program to support capacities, building of officers and personnel of the African armed forces through training